Welcome back to the show, everybody. We got a lot to cover this morning. 718 million XRP shoveled around. We'll get into it. Brian Brooks on Fox Business News. Bank of England issues a warning, the threat of crypto and how it can destabilize the financial system. We got to get into that. Boots on the ground problem with the SEC, and they're big. FSOC U.S. Treasury on crypto and stablecoins. Ripple executive selected as the vice chair for the USFaster Payments Council. How about that one? And then we got Extopay. Have you heard of it? Because I haven't, but I think we're going to like what it does. Let's get into this. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
This is Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Subscribe for new content notifications. Now, here's Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. You can follow me on Twitter at BackupBradleyAbove, and everything that we're talking about here today. $2.201 trillion market cap. Yeah, how about that one? We're up 2.45%. It's December 18th, 2021. The year is closing out quickly. And right now, Bitcoin is at 46,900 plus. Ethereum is at 3,900 plus. And we see Solana coming in at $181 and change. Cardano is at $1.25. And XRP is 82 cents. Let's take a look at the price range really quickly here. We are 0.7804 on the low side and 0.8335 on the high side. We'll keep an eye on it. We are, in fact, 363 days plus into the America Crypto Innovation Under Siege, ladies and gentlemen. The SEC versus Ripple is coming up on a one-year mark here. And hopefully, we will be settling sometime into 2022, as Brad Garlinghouse seems to be hopeful to have happen as well. We will keep an eye on that as well. But we got a lot of news to go over today. 718 million XRP shoveled by Ripple Labs and major ODL platforms. What? Come on. Got to take a look at this. Got to take a look at this. I mean, usually there's not a lot of information here other than that's how much money got moved around. Over half the amount sent by Ripple Labs in two massive lumps, total worth to transfer by $585,946,261. How about that? It's been kicked over several crypto asset companies, Ripple, Binance, and two more digital exchanges. I mean, are we preparing to maybe relist XRP? I mean, say it isn't so. Or actually, say it is so. I know about you. I'm ready. Bank of England has issued a warning about the risk of cryptocurrencies and the impact industry could have on existing financial systems. You're going to want this one. The Bank of England has once again warned about the potential threat of crypto assets posed to the world's existing financial system. Listen to this. Sir John Cunliffe, Deputy Governor, Bank Governor, says to the BBC that a price correction in crypto markets could have profound ramifications for other industries. This is what he says. The point, I think, at which one worries is when it becomes integrated into the financial system. When a big price correction could really affect other markets and affect established financial market players. Think of what he just said there. He says, which one worries is when it becomes integrated into the financial system, when a big price correction could really affect other markets. I don't think he's talking about a big price correction for crypto other than it going up. But I think the big price correction could be the other markets themselves suffering and going through a correction because we know they're overbought. We know we're in a liquidity crisis, right? And people are looking for a hedge. And he goes on to say, it's not there yet, but it takes time to design standards and regulations. We really need to roll up our sleeves and get on with it. He says, so that by the time this becomes a much bigger issue, we've actually got the regulatory framework that contains the risk. And that's a really great point there. I really believe he is pointing to the idea and understanding that crypto will be a real haven for people to want to go with their money. Looking
so
right here,
now bring in
this is Bitfury CEO, former OCC head Brian Brooks, former chief legal officer of Coinbase, on Fox Business, straighten out some comments from his hearing. Let's take a listen.
Fury Group CEO Brian Brooks. And Brian, you were at this House crypto hearing, and I read that where you said that one way to regulate the industry would be by preventing people from investing in crypto because you want them to avoid the volatility and suggesting maybe only the rich should have access. And when I read that, I'm saying to myself, golly, that seems to be 100% opposite of what the crypto story is supposed to be about. Tell us why this is the way to go.
Well, Charles, it's not that it's the way to go. What I was trying to do is give an example of what the current U.S. regime is all about. So we have this rule in the United States called the accredited investor rule. It's a big exemption from securities laws. And what it does is it allows rich people, people with a certain threshold of assets or a certain income, to invest in IPOs, initial coin offerings, and all kinds of other things, which is where wealth is generated. So the point I was trying to make is not that we should embrace that, but that we should recognize that unless we have regulatory reform soon, the only people who will participate in Web3 are rich people.
I understand. Now, at the same hearing, Congressman Patrick McHenry of North Carolina said that technology is already in place, that this technology, this whole Web3 technology, is already regulated. Is he right, or should there be, so quote unquote, some common sense rules put in there?
Yeah, I mean, what I would say is common sense is kind of in the eye of the beholder. But right now, lending is regulated. Truth in advertising is regulated. Securities and derivatives are regulated. So the question I always have is, how come whenever a new technology comes along in this country, we think the solution is to build a new regulatory agency? We've got plenty of agencies. The issue is understanding how this technology fits into the current framework and letting investors and builders move forward. Right. That's our problem, is we haven't done that yet.
I'm worried, and I think a lot of crypto investors are worried, that next year you could see really more, Washington, D.C. go after them. I mean, we just had this infrastructure bill that was passed. There were some things in there that put a tremendous onus on just regular crypto investors. I mean, think about this. November 15th, the bill was passed. Bitcoin was around 65,000. It's been as low as 45,000. How worried are you that once the government's, the sort of camel's nose gets under the tent, that we could see too much regulation? Are you confident that this hearing and other hearings will maybe educate Washington and make sure that they don't destroy this industry?
Well, Charles, I couldn't ask the question better myself. I mean, I'm worried about two basic things. One of those things is that the people who talk about regulating this really mean they want to prevent it. That's a big worry. But the other thing I worry is we have these existing structures through which we conduct finance in this country. They're called banks and broker-dealers. And if you were serious about regulating this asset, what you would do is you would let it into the existing system. You'd let banks use Ethereum and Solana to clear payments as opposed to using Fedwire and the automated clearinghouse, for instance. But for some mysterious reason, the same people who claim to want crypto regulation are preventing crypto from entering the regulated economy. Now, explain that to me.
Yeah, great point. Brian, thank you so much for...
There you have it. I mean, this guy is super uber smart. And to his point, let's give you a boots on the ground real example why we don't need any more regulatory agencies to oversee crypto, because this is the problem with the agency that actually is trying to oversee all of crypto right now. Listen to this real example from Library executive here talk about what his experience with the SEC was. It is so maddening. Listen to this.
We have begged them to tell us how we can follow the law, how we can, match these other companies that aren't getting this kind of, that aren't getting these kinds of charges. We've literally begged the SEC, please tell us. I don't think we've done anything wrong, but we even said because hey, it's the government, they want to get their pound of flesh, and so we said, we'll cut you a check, we'll give you money, we'll give you 6 figures, 7 figures, but we need to know how we can operate legally. And their answer was, just give us the money, and it felt to me like, if I gave them the money, they'd just charge me again in a year. They'd just come back in a year or another 2 years or whatever. And so that was part of why we didn't do it, is basically the only offer they would ever give us is give us a bunch of money, admit you did things that were wrong, and we won't even tell you how to do it right. And that's what's so crazy to me. I'm an entrepreneur, I'm an inventor. This isn't my first time that I've started a startup. And for the government to say, you're breaking the law, but we can't tell you how to follow it, it's like, how are people supposed to start businesses in this space? How are we supposed to be innovators? I mean, I love America. I want America to stay at the forefront of the cutting edge, and be that space where, we're doing the most inventive, the most creative. We're leading the world in terms of what we create. I like that America has done that historically, and it feels like in this climate, it's really hard to do that.
Well, it's just horrible what he's explaining here. The SEC just says, just give us the money, with no explanation of how you can move forward and no clarity. But yet Gary Gensler says there is clarity. Well, let me tell you what Gary Gensler also says. There's a cost to build trust in the system, which means it's pay to play.
The point is, they were doing the right thing.
Can we get to a clear framework so that people
good
can do
actors.
this
Yes.
in a cost-effective manner without having to hire a fleet of lawyers to try and figure it out?
I think that you're correct that there is a cost to build trust in the system.
Really? Isn't that exactly what we just heard the guy from Library talk about? It is horrific. And when you think about this, why is Jay Clayton, when he was the SEC chair and now refusing to answer any comments or explain why he actually sued Ripple on his last day of office? Great question, ProCoin News. And here is an example of Jay Clayton trying to distance himself, knowing that he went to work for Apollo Group and said that he had no knowledge of Apollo Global. But he did. He met with them when he was the SEC chair. Listen to this.
I do want to ask you one thing, because it's something that your critics seem to believe, which is that in your final days at the head of the SEC brought a case against Ripple. Now you're advising some other companies in this space, and they point out or suggest that this is a conflict.
Well, Andrew, let me say that we brought a number of cases during my tenure at the SEC in the ICO space, offerings and securities that were not following our rules around registration for wide distribution to the public. I'm not going to comment specifically on the case you mentioned, but in terms of my after government service in this space, what I can say is that the companies that I advise, I don't want to be promoting them, but one is an institutional asset manager, another is a what I would call an infrastructure provider. I did not know these companies while I was in the government. I was introduced to them after I exited, did my due diligence as to whether I would be an advisor, and chose to do so.
It isn't true. Look, take a look here. He earned $7.6 million from Sullivan Cromwell over the past year or so, and has investments in portfolios managed by Apollo Global. You know, it is so bad what is going on here. And you have to ask yourself, is this the best scenario that the U.S. Treasury and FSOC are really in a position to provide guidance, regulations for the crypto space and stable coins? If Congress fails to act, the Financial Stability Oversight Council, which we have talked about here ad nauseum, but it's so important because it's a regulatory agency that is a prudential regulator, not a market regulator. They do not need Congress's approval to make decisions. And neither does OFAC, which is another regulatory agency connected to the Treasury that oversees sanctions. This is a big deal. I almost have to wonder if that's why the verbiage was not put through properly, to leave the foot in the door for the U.S. Treasury to handle the regulations and oversight of stable coins and cryptocurrencies ultimately in the early stages before Congress actually passes legislation, because Treasury oversees money. And we know for a fact that the SEC does not have this really right. Okay, so there's that. Now let's take a look at this reminder. We know that the SEC charged Ripple and two executives with unregistered security offering. We know that. But check out this contrast. While the SEC is suing Ripple over XRP being an unregistered security, Ripple executive Craig DeWitt, and congratulations to you, has been selected as the vice chair of USFaster Payments Council for cross-border payments. Can you make this up? Are we watching a movie here? What are we watching now? The SEC suing them, but yet Craig DeWitt is selected as vice chair to USFaster Payments Council for cross-border payments now? You would think being sued by the SEC would disqualify you for such a seat, wouldn't you? Or is it, as I have been saying here on this channel, the case is very real legal case. But it is also, as Gary Gensler has said, a cost to build trust in the system. Is it not? A vetting process is what I say all the time. It's a very real legal case, but it's also the path for which a new technology must go on to be legally defined and have precedent set in order to have all the money move across its rails. This goes on further here to really solidify what we all know, bylaws of the USFaster Payments Council here. All the money is coming. Financial institutions, state or federal charter banks, credit unions, and brokerage firms or organizations that represent financial institutions that provide payment services to the end user and clear and settle payments on their behalf. I just covered this, yesterday or the day before. Federal regulators say credit unions can partner with crypto providers. We already know the federally chartered banking system has been given a green light. Now the credit unions have been given the same green light to buy and sell and offer digital asset service providers and crypto services. Come on in. Do you not see what's happening here? Because I know I do. This is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, for which July 2020 passed the amendment that allowed for Swift GPI and Ripple XRP to be able to handle the partnership with non-bank institutions like Ripple and the relationships with banks and credit unions, which will allow them to use and tap into this closed network payment system of non-bank remittance transfer providers as Ripple, which they call a virtual currency company, and the virtual currency XRP. You know, there is a cost to build trust in the system. Now, I have not heard of this, and this is the first time I have heard of this, so I want you all to help me out here. It's Extopay. And if you know more about this than I do, please share it in the comments because I want to find out. I've never heard of Extopay, but it sounds pretty incredible in the way it's going to revolutionize payments and the ability to interact offline transactions around the world. Check this out.
Extopay is the result of 3 years of development by a world-class multidisciplinary team. Extopay is a disruptive digital payment system that provides universal access for consumers and merchants.
Really quickly before he goes on, look at that diagram showing central banks, e-money, CBDCs, reserves here, showing gold. I mean, agents, customers. I mean, this is a whole path they're showing here, all built on a modified XRP ledger, they say.
Reducing merchant transaction fees to negligible levels. Based on a modified version of XRP's distributed ledger, Extopay's backend is engineered to support permission DLT clusters, offline transactions, and an open-loop payment network. Extopay can interface with banking and payment systems via APIs to provide a novel e-money solution and act as a Tier 2 retail CBDC platform. An interledger layer enables an open-loop payment system, allowing wallet holders of one bank to transact with wallets issued by another. Extocard and mobile wallets provide universal access to consumers and merchants with or without smartphones or connectivity. Deviceless consumers can access their accounts via plastic QR code cards and their verified biometrics on the merchant or agent cards.
That's some next level stuff right there. I don't know a thing about Extopay, but it sounds like they have really been working hard over the last 3 years on a modified version of the XRP ledger and the interledger protocol to be able to interface with different banks with each other, and going all the way to the integration of central bank digital currencies from the retail consumer merchant end all the way back to the central bank side. How about that? That sounds pretty incredible. Listen, that's going to do it for me. Everything is coming together. It seems like, if I didn't know any better, what we're witnessing while U.S. retail investors are being handcuffed and benched at getting XRP in the same manner we could a year ago, we are watching the rollout of the new financial system, and Ripple and XRP are smack dab in the middle of it. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe, leave a comment below, share with somebody you know. Check out all the links in the description and comment section. They are products and services I use each and every day. Ladies and gentlemen, I Trust Capital is the best crypto, silver, gold IRA on the planet. If you fund an account right now, they'll give you $100 in Bitcoin, and there is no monthly fees. I'll catch all of you on the next one.